Parents pampered their golden child all my life but now expect me to care for them, ever since I was a young kid, I understood that I was not my parents' favorite child. Instead it was my older sister who was the golden child of the family. Both my parents loved her more than me and they made sure that I knew I was not their favorite child. My sister, Jane, was not only pretty but also smart. But at the same time she was a brat. While Jane went to a private school, I was sent to a public school. On her birthdays, Jane would receive tons of gifts and my parents would organize parties for her and her friends, but on my birthdays I would just receive an envelope with $100. The only person who celebrated my birthday with me was my grandmother. She was the only one who cared for me and wished me happy birthday. While Jane's room was huge, my room was as big as her closet. When I was younger, I would always try my best to be a good daughter to my parents. I studied hard and got good grades to please my parents. Whenever I would participate in any competition or any quiz, I would try my best to win a prize so that my parents would be proud of me. But it never happened. They were never proud of me no matter what I did or won. After I reached high school, my parents told me that since they have already spent a lot of money on my sister's education, both school and college, they did not have enough money for my college. They said that if I wanted to go to college I would have to earn my own money. I could not understand. They had enough money to send my sister to a private school and college, but they never left for my college. I understood that there was nothing I could do and that I would have to earn my own money eventually. So, after I started high school I started working many part-time jobs. Throughout high school I had many kinds of part-time jobs. I worked as a waitress, a cleaner, delivery girl, babysitter, tutor and many others. During my high school graduation, my parents did not come, even after I begged them the previous day to come. That's when I knew they would never care about me. After I went off to college, I hardly went to my parents' place, and if I did go back I would spend most of my time at my grandma's place. One evening my father called me and told me that grandma had died. After her funeral I hardly went back to my parents' place. When I got a job after my college and moved into my new apartment, I got a call from my parents asking me to join them for dinner next Sunday. Even though I was suspicious, I agreed to join them for dinner. When I went over to their place for dinner, they asked me what I was currently doing and what were my plans for the future. I told them that I was working as a marketing manager and did not really have any strict plans for the future. They laughed at me and said that being a marketing manager is not even a real job. I really loved my job, so I told them that no matter what they thought of me or my job I worked hard to have it and finally achieved it. I told them that they had no right to laugh when they never helped me out with anything. Unlike my sister, I had to work hard for what I had achieved. They got angry and yelled at me, calling me an ungrateful brat. They said that I existed in this world because they wanted me to. They were the reason for my existence and they were the ones who let me stay in this house and fed me for almost 18 years. I decided to leave, but my parents stopped me by saying that my sister was getting married and she was going to leave in the same state as me, so I should help her out in the future. I was speechless. So, the reason they called me to join them for dinner was not because they were concerned about me but because they wanted me to help out my sister. It was not because of me, it was because of her once again. I said that I would do whatever I wanted and left their place. When my sister got married, I did not spend much time at the wedding. I left as soon as the wedding was over. It was suffocating and I did not want my parents or sister to say something that would spoil my mood. After my sister got married, my parents asked me to visit them again. When I visited them I realized that I was not the only guest there. They also invited my sister and brother-in-law. The main purpose was to announce that my sister was pregnant. I was about to leave after I congratulated her, but my mother cornered me and told me that it is my duty as her sister to take care of my pregnant sister and help out once her child is born. I refused and left after saying that my sister hates me and she is well enough to hire help if she needed it. After her baby was born my sister changed a lot. She often became rude to our parents and stopped visiting them. She started rejecting their calls and invitations to visit them. All this also affected me as my parents would constantly call me to ask what was happening to my sister and why she was acting that way. Few months ago they came to visit my sister, but she told them that she, her husband and her baby were visiting her in-laws even though my parents saw her right across the street. After they failed to visit my sister, my parents barged into my apartment and demanded that I talk to my sister and ask her why she was doing that to my parents. She also said that they would be staying over at my place. I had enough of them. They never cared for me, and now when they were being abandoned by their golden child they decided to stay over at my place? The fact that they did not even request to stay. Instead they said that they would as if they own this is. I told them they could not stay here and I felt uncomfortable with them being here and told them to leave. They were furious and called me an ungrateful brat but left nonetheless. I was glad that they left. I later came to know that apparently my sister had stopped contacting our parents at all. She was no longer in contact with them. The day after my parents barged into my house, they went to visit her again unannounced. My sister became mad at them for visiting her unannounced and said that she did not wish to be a part of their family anymore as she felt much more comfortable and at ease with her husband's family. She said that she would be sending them money if they needed it, but they were not supposed to expect her to be a good daughter to them. My parents were devastated and barged into my apartment again. I was annoyed. They never came to my apartment because they wanted to check on me or ask me if I was doing okay. Instead, it was always because of my sister. They are worried about her but not about me. I told them that I had nothing to do with them or my sister and that they should stop coming here every time my sister did something to them. I also told them that they were not welcomed here anymore and that this was the last day they were allowed to enter her. They again became angry and I decided that it was best to ask them to leave. But they said that since I was also a daughter of theirs, I should start taking care of them. I was baffled. How could they ask me for something like this? They never cared for me, but now they want me to care for them? I told them that they invested in the wrong daughter and now they will have to face the consequence of it and close the door right on their faces. Update 1. When Levi, my fiancé, and I decided to get married, he convinced me to invite my parents, if not my sister. We both visited them together to invite them. After we were seated in the living room, my parents started questioning Levi, more like interrogating. I was annoyed and embarrassed. I told them that they should stop behaving like they care. They again brought up the issue of how I should be taking care of them more now as they were becoming poor. I told them that since they never cared for me, not even once, they cannot expect me to care for them either. All throughout my childhood I tried my best to win their approval and acknowledge my presence, but they never did. They only saw my sister as their daughter. I was always treated as a stranger, but now they want me to take care of them? I said that since the only thing that they gave me was enough money to survive, I would also do the same. I told them that every month I would be sending them enough money to pay for their food and bills. I said that they can attend the wedding if they want to, but I do not care anymore if they attend or not. Update 2. For once in my life, my parents at last attended an important event in my life. They attended my wedding. My father thought that I would let him walk me down the aisle, but when he realized that a friend of mine was actually walking me down the aisle, he became mad at me and told me that I was being disrespectful by not letting him walk me down the aisle. I told him that he never acted like a father to me anyways, so there was no need for him to try and become my father now. Soon after the wedding was over, my parents left the venue and I did not stop them. Seeing the relationship Levi had with his parents, I would often become jealous. But they are very nice people. They lovingly accepted me into their family and I am really glad to be here. Update 3. Recently I heard that my mother was in the hospital and had a surgery. I visited her and bought flowers for her. She did not say anything much. I was not in a mood to visit my father, so I did not visit him. Even though I did not cut off my ties with my parents, I have decided to keep the interactions absolutely minimal in order to avoid any more fights. My parents were always really happy around each other and from what I can tell in love. But it all started when I first came out as trans and queer to my family. I had come out to each member of my family separately. I started with my brother, who didn't really care what I did. And then moved on to my mom, who was relatively accepting. She didn't understand a lot of things, so once I explained what everything meant, she was fine with it and did really care as long as I'm happy. I finished off by telling my dad, who I was most scared to tell considering he was raised pretty religious. I came out to my dad with a note that stated everything he would need to know. I wasn't expecting him to accept me. I only came out so he wouldn't be confused if my mom and brother started calling me my preferred name. After he had read the note, he came into my room and started yelling at me about how I was a disgrace and that it was all a phase. After a while of yelling at me while I just sat on my bed letting it happen, he had finished his rant. A few days later I had walked home from school to see my dad throwing a suitcase in my direction, which I barely dodged. He yelled at me to pack my essentials and find somewhere else to stay. He had kicked me out. Which I didn't mind. I texted a friend who had agreed to let me stay with them for a bit until I figured things out with my family. Around a month later of texting my mom and her telling me about wanting to divorce my dad so I can live with her, edit, I made it clear from the start that I supported her, divorce or not, and that I would understand no matter her choice. It had finally happened. My mom had decided, with support from me, to go through with it and divorce him. It's now been 2 years living with my mom happily far from my father and being called my preferred name and others using he/him pronouns, and no one has had that much of a problem with it besides that incident. One thing I have had to deal with is I've been told by my mom and many others who know the story and knew how happy my parents were, that I broke up a happy marriage for selfish reasons. Is it true? Am I the a-hole? I, female 26, am 4 months pregnant with mine and my husband's, male 29, first children. We are having twins. We are both incredibly excited, but it is quite a high-risk pregnancy, so I have been taking it easy and we are trying to keep the information to ourselves until we know that I am, and the babies are, out of the woods. When I found out that I was pregnant, I put together a little gift box to give to my husband and surprise him with the news. I put silly little things in the box, like a World's Best Dad mug, a baby grow, and a baby book to track all the firsts. At the time I did not know that I was having twins, so there was just one of everything in the box. The plan was that I would gift my husband the box when he arrived home from work, and tell him that we were expecting. Everything went off without a hitch and my husband was beside himself. We had been trying for a while, and it was obviously quite an exciting moment. The next day, my mom, female 52, was visiting and snooped in my husband's home office under the guise of going to the bathroom while I was making lunch. She saw the box and all the contents, and came flying out of the office like a bat out of hell telling me that my husband was having an affair baby because he had a secret dad box. At first I was so confused, but eventually cleared it up that I had made the box because my husband and I were expecting. My mom was so excited and immediately tried to phone her best friend to tell her the news. I told her that I wanted to wait until I was at least 3 months before we started telling people, and I asked her to please keep the information to herself. Reddit, when I tell you that the whole community knows, it is because my mom told everyone with the caveat that they also keep the secret. It is like middle school, and it is driving me crazy. Now my mom is bugging me about information from doctor's appointments and I have not told her a word. I have not even told her that we are having twins or that it is high risk, but she insists that she should be privy to all information as the baby's granny. She has also asked me to have her in the room with me when I give birth instead of my husband, which I quickly shut down. I am just feeling so defeated. I am just trying to rest, but I have constant nagging from my mom and all of her friends who claim that they have not told a soul either. My husband does his best to intercept all the demands for information, but I am starting to feel like it would be easier to just cave and tell my mom everything. Am I the a-hole for keeping the information to myself and not letting my mother be involved in the growth and development of her first grandbaby? She sent me a text yesterday telling me that it is her right as a loving parent to know about her child's and future grandchild's health.